Hello, everyone. My name's Alan Schmidt, older brother of Karen. On behalf of our entire family, I would like to welcome everyone here today for a celebration and an understanding of Karen's life. I would like to especially welcome Alexander's father, Mark Haley. Put your hand up, Mark, right. Mark Haley and his extended family. Thank you. As well as my mom's brother Peter, sister Lorraine, and her husband John, and their sons Andrew and David, and new daughter-in-law Kate, actually, all from Kelowna. Thank you for coming out. And finally, Alexander's teammates from the McMaster University Marauders football team, all outside there. These guys have been an incredible support group for Alexander. As you know, many of you know he's going to University of McMaster on a scholarship, on the team. This is his extended family, very important. During the past many months, Karen's son Alexander and myself were her primary caregivers as her health declined. We're going to hear from Alexander shortly as he volunteered to give the eulogy to his own mother, something a 19-year-old should never have to do. But before this, I would like to fulfill one of Karen's wishes she had of me. To explain and educate our family and friends on the disease she had and the choices she had to make. In the past week, I have spoken with many of Karen's friends and family across the country, as well as dozens of people that she befriended in the support groups that she and I were members of for her disease in both Canada and the US. One of the most common responses of people has been the feeling of guilt for not doing more for Karen, or speaking out more when they realize the severity of her condition and the state of her mind. I spent many hours at Karen's bedside and was well aware of all of the texts, the emails, the phone calls she had from many of you. However, in the last couple months, the need to respond several times a day to the same questions of how are you feeling today, Karen, and what can I do for you, became repetitive and difficult, as she was feeling worse every day and there was nothing anybody could do. Karen felt bad about this, but needed to focus her energy elsewhere on trying to stabilize her disease and get the pain under control. So please, as we all mourn the loss of Karen, don't feel guilty or bad that you could not have done more for her or didn't get the responses you were hoping for. Karen had a difficult last couple years that started with a workplace concussion she suffered that had her on workplace leave under a WSIB claim. Then about a year ago, Karen started to develop lower back and leg pains that were not consistent with a concussion that further prevented her from returning to work. This created a very difficult dynamic between Karen and her employer, the Hamilton School Board. We're joined today by Michelle, the Vice President of the Hamilton Wentworth Elementary Teachers Local, who represented Karen and have been incredible supporters of her case to uphold her rights and compensation during her claim period. Thank you, Michelle. So as these new symptoms continued, Karen began searching for answers. An MRI in August was only interpreted as having lower disc degeneration and protrusion, not uncommon for her age. Karen was not satisfied that this alone could be the source of her ailment and peculiar symptoms. She continued to research additional causes despite my and family's strong urging that she let the doctors determine what the condition was and not Google. However, if any of you knew Karen well, you knew how determined she can be when she believes in something, and there was no changing her mind. She soon believed she may have the rare presence of what are called Tarloff cysts, I've never heard of them before, on her lower spine and sacrum. The spinal sac is made up of a couple of layers of soft tissue that are weakened by other disease conditions that can cause the positive pressure of your spinal fluid to create a bulge or an aneurysm on your spinal sac, resulting in these Tarlov cysts that could be as large as a golf ball. Tarlov cysts have been known for over a century and in most cases are non-symptomatic in people unless they are pressing against nerves which would produce pain. Karen discovered the retired Dr. Tennant in the US that ran a pain clinic since the 1970s and over time specialized in intractable pain syndromes. In 2007, he retired and closed his clinic, but started up the Tennant Foundation to continue his research on specific inflammatory diseases and conditions of the spine and provide support and education to those treating and suffering from these diseases. Dr. Tennant agreed to review Karen's case and her MRIs for free to add to his research database. When Karen received back his handwritten notes and arrows on the MRI images and his cover letter, he easily confirmed that she did indeed have 4 Tarlov cysts on her lower spinal sac that most likely were the result of a connective tissue disorder that is not uncommon to have your entire life, that eventually results in the depletion of collagen over time, a building block in a strong spine. A later screening for connective tissue disorder was confirmed. Dr. Tennant further pointed out evidence on the MRI of spinal fluid leakage. You could actually see it right under her skin on the MRI. You could feel it under her back like a water blister by her spine. And finally, the confirmation of a disease named adhesive arachnoiditis, or AA. The well-respected Cleveland Clinic defines it as arachnoiditis is a pain disorder caused by the inflammation of the arachnoid, one of the membranes that surround and protect the nerves of the spinal cord. Severe stinging, a burning pain, and neurological problems characterize this condition. Inflammation of the arachnoid can lead to the formation of scar tissue and cause the spinal nerves to stick together, the adhesiveness, and malfunction, end quote. When compared to a normal spine MRI, it was easy to see the clumping together of these nerves on L4 and 5 and the scar tissue that was cutting off nutrients and oxygen to her nerves. Adhesive arachnoiditis doesn't just happen on its own. It is the result of one or more inflammatory spinal traumas that cause the condition, either protruding discs onto the spinal sac causing inflammation, or the weakening of the spinal tissues by collagen disorder confirmed by Tarlov cysts, or brain trauma resulting from a concussion, or botched epidural attempts that can cause inflammation and scarring of the spinal sac. Karen had not one, but every single one of these prerequisite conditions. During this time, Karen's local doctor was making many referrals for Karen to try to get a diagnosis for her. The problem with Dr. Tennant's diagnosis is he was retired and no longer a licensed practicing doctor, so her doctor could not simply adopt his diagnosis and needed to get it confirmed, and we wanted that as well. A second, more detailed MRI in Toronto in December did indeed confirm multiple Tarlov cysts, however, failed to confirm AA disease. AA is described as a rarely diagnosed disease that is not well understood by some radiologists and is far more common than people think, with symptoms simply labeled as lower back pain due to skeletal or muscle trauma. Dr. Tennant had a 3-component medical protocol to treat AA consisting of medications for inflammation control, tissue repair, and pain control, coupled with exercise and a strong nutritional regime. The very high dosage requirement of various steroids, anti-inflammatory drugs, and opioid painkillers was again not recognized in Canada, and controversial as well, the high opioid painkillers. So Karen never received the recommended treatment protocol. However, this was really a moot point at this point. AA is described in 4 progressive stages. Karen's stage was level 4, labeled catastrophic, and had no hope of cure and little hope for even a reduction of pain or symptoms. The pain at this level is described by the Mayo Clinic as greater than stage 4 bone cancer. Karen lost the ability to walk in the fall and was confined to a bed 24 hours a day as sitting up in a wheelchair increased the pain and further spinal leakage. In the last weeks, it was almost impossible for her to move herself onto her wheelchair on her own. She knew she needed additional care and didn't want to further burden Alexander, who has a full university and football schedule that he needed to focus on and she wanted him to focus on. So we moved her to a care facility in Hamilton in February. She didn't want to use the ambulatory services to go to all of her appointments and the MRIs at 2 a.m. in Toronto because it was going to cost too much money. And so for the last 2 or 3 months, we put a mattress in my wife's van and I drove her around. And it was actually a highlight for her. It was the only highlight she had in some days because we had to drive through Starbucks so she could get her favorite coffee. Lying down in the back with the staff at the takeout thinking that I'm probably abducting this woman as she lies in the back. No. Oh, it might be working? Okay. Okay, thank you. Knowing her future prospects and the thought of living like this for the next 30 years or so was so unimaginable to her that she talked to me about making application for medical assistance in dying, the acronym MAID. At first, I refused to discuss this, but she insisted we needed to consider it as an option and to start preparing for it and all the tasks that needed to be done to set Alexander up for a future that she possibly wouldn't be a part of. I finally agreed to help her start planning for this, knowing it would take over a year or so to get approval, and without a Canadian diagnosis of the disease, the application couldn't even start. So lots of time to find answers for relief and stop the MAID application. Alexander and Mom were aware of this. Karen started the MAID application and began transitioning things to Alexander, working nonstop to notify all the utility companies to add Alexander and I as authorized users. She gave us all the passwords for her bank accounts and social media. She transferred her car into Alexander's name and bought his insurance. She prepared detailed lists, maintenance items for the house, including 2 pages of winter and spring duties. I saw the car outside. I think Karen's handyman is here, actually. I actually have your phone number and everything on my 1-inch binder of things to attend to for her house. So detailed lists of maintenance items for her house. She cashed in her RSPs. She pre-filled out applications to withdraw her teacher's pension. She wrote out detailed instructions, how we had to restain the new deck in the spring, Alexander, that she just installed, in addition to dozens of other tasks, all from her bed and a laptop while enduring immense pain. By me agreeing to support her in the MAID process brought a huge sense of relief to her that we could focus on what is best for Alexander's future. Karen continually commented on the love and pride she had for her son and what a wonderful young man he had become. So as we worked through all of this, I was working from a 1-year timetable as we could continue to seek relief for her. But apparently, she was secretly working on a 1-month timetable. Karen's pain was not the manifestation of depression. Her disease and prospects were real, and her actions were not selfish. She was a great mother to the last day, and indeed into the future, as she has provided well for Alexander. If you don't mind me saying, Alexander, you may say it. She wrote a very, very long journal for Alexander and for me to read that I think is going to help Alexander in many years to come. Karen cried for hours from the thought of leaving Mom and Alexander. And in a sealed letter she left for me, wrote in part, My body gave out, and I was no longer living. I have so much living left inside of me, but not like this. Your loving sister, Karen. Karen, we all love you and miss you dearly. And don't worry, we will all take care of Alexander. Thank you. Sorry, buddy, you're up. Alexander.
I'm Alexander. You may know me as Xander, or even Z. I have two deliveries to make here today. A poem from my mother's best friend from the University of Victoria. Her name's Leanna Grant. She lives in Prince George, British Columbia, and can't be here with us today. And I have a script of my own, a eulogy. And before I'd like to start, I'd like to thank all the friends, family, friends of my mother's, who are often parents of my friends, but most importantly, the McMaster football team, who have taken me in as a little brother, in some cases, and a brother for my other rookie cohort. I love all you guys more than you know. So we're here today to remember my mother. And over the last 6 months, she had been grappling with a devastating central nervous system disease, as we know, called adhesive arachnoiditis. Mom was a warrior for others who could not fight for themselves, like the hundreds, if not thousands, of mentally and physically impaired students that she taught in the Okanagan from the mid-1980s until 2001, as well as students facing the same challenges in Southern Ontario from the mid-2000s until 2019. Mom was a warrior for her family, and most importantly, herself. Her dedication to being prepared for any situation shone through in her final months and underlined her love for my family. She forecasted all potential bumps in the road for herself as well as I as her disease and her pain progressed. Mom was a staggeringly strong individual. This attribute showed herself in her performance as an internationally competitive cross-country skier in the 1990s and a provincially competitive tactical mountain biker at the same time. In the face of one of the most painful diseases a human being can develop, she remained strong as ever. Although she was largely bedridden during her final months at home, she would smile and greet me with a big hug always, even if I was sweaty and smelly from football practice, followed by loads of questions about my day. While she could have become self-centered and negative as her disease progressed, this never happened. Her positive and wholesome disposition was never extinguished. Mom was a lover of nature. She spent tens of thousands of hours hiking the trails down the street from our home on Bond North. She went above and beyond to make others' experiences in nature pleasant. When I was a child, we decorated a wild pine with small Christmas decorations as the holiday approached. Then we watched afar from as hikers and dog walkers passed by and stopped to smile at her warm-hearted gesture. Mom's legacy will be as she lived, a teacher who went out of her way to uplift those around her. We will miss Mom dearly, but we must address these emotions positively and find peace in her eternal peace. Thank you. This poem from my mother's friend, Leanna Grant, is titled A Tribute to My Dear Friend, Karen. Goodbye, Karen. You're a best friend to me. I will never forget our memories from university. You from Kelowna, and I from Prince George. Two girls from small towns. It was just meant to be. We studied so hard and crammed for exams, then took time out to put our feet in the sand. We shared our joys, our loves, and our fears, and our friendship lasted for 36 years. You were smart, independent, hardworking, and kind, a dogged researcher, the best teacher you'd find. You built a life and a career and a home with your son. Extremely athletic, one amazing mom. The depth of our sharing across many miles, our families, our hardships, our worries and trials. Though far, far apart, our connection was something strong. We soon came to realize that something was wrong. Your spirit was crushed when your health brought you down, unable to do what you love. To your bed you were bound. These days were so long, and the nights were too. The unbearable pain in your body grew and grew. Your courage and strength went beyond any measure, hoping to stay here and be with your son forever. But life took a turn. The war was now lost. You gave it your all. Your life was the cost. You fought a tough battle, the toughest some say. You're a warrior, my hero, and I honor you today. You rose to the challenge and gave it your best. Now it's time to surrender and finally rest. I wish I could be there to read this goodbye. You've grown your wings, to the heavens you fly. My heart is so heavy and my eyes filled with tears. How will I live without my friend of so many years? My phone is now silent. No more texts you will send. No phone conversations, for this is the end. You fought with conviction and recognized all the signs to end all suffering as you saw your decline. You're now free of pain caused by this debilitating disease. The fight is over and your soul is at ease. Your pure spirit now, made only of love. I know you watch over all of us from above. I will miss you so much. I love you, Karen. With love from your forever friend, Leanna. Thank you for being here, everybody. We love you all.
Thank you, Alexander.
Yeah.
So I fulfilled Karen's wish of me. There's a chance now for you to fulfill another wish she had. As many of you know, you've asked me over the past week, and it was on the obituary. Karen asked for if anyone wanted to make donations, to be making them to a couple special causes. The main one being the arachnoiditis research network that's actually in London, Ontario, headed up by Laurie Burton, who Karen and I have been speaking to for months. Laurie has adhesive arachnoiditis. She was able to stabilize it at stage 2. She is full-time in a wheelchair, but the pain is manageable. She caught it early enough. So they've been a great resource, actually, for our doctors, and I've been talking to her a lot with her foundation. Actually, my sister-in-law, Rebecca, who many of you know is very influential in her job and position with the Ontario government and our health system. She's actually helped Karen and I navigate the system a lot, which is hard to do when you have a rare disease. And she's also been a supporter and following these groups that we were part of. Anyway, the Laurie Burton and her group have got a website that you can do donations on. They actually, with all the donations they were getting this past week, they put together a specific landing page and a memorial page for Karen. So we've got the cards here. If anyone wants to make a donation, there's actually a guest book that you can sign there as well. And this is going to a great cause. And if any of you want, these will be put them around. So thank you very much. Please have yourself another glass of wine and mingle. And Alexander, as you were talking, and I'm looking at your father, I realized that going forward, you're going to have one of these new modern families where you're going to have 2 fathers. Okay, thank you guys. On behalf of my mom and all of our family, thank you for coming out. I can't believe the turnout, but I understand why. Thank you very much.